When you feel like you can't take it anymore, listen to this story. Once upon a time, on a small farm surrounded by vast green fields, there was a horse named Braveheart. Braveheart was a beautiful and strong animal, with a majestic stance and a mane that shone in the sun. His name couldn't have been more fitting, as he was a symbol of courage and determination. Braveheart lived a peaceful and happy life alongside his owner, Mr. Alberto, a dedicated and loving farmer. Together, they worked the fields, plowing the land and transporting crops. The bond between them was deep, based on mutual respect and trust. Mr. Alberto always said that Braveheart was more than a horse, he was his faithful companion and friend. Every day at dawn, Braveheart was the first to greet the sun, eager to start another day of work alongside his beloved owner. He ran freely through the fields, enjoying the fresh breeze and the scent of the flowers that adorned the landscape. His life was an example of harmony and peace, and it seemed nothing could change that. But life often holds surprises and challenges that test our faith and strength. And that's exactly what happened to Braveheart. This is just the beginning of the journey of this brave horse, a story that will teach us about overcoming, faith, and hope, even in the toughest times. The region where Braveheart lived was hit by a severe drought. The sun, which once brought joy and warmth, now seemed relentless, scorching the land and turning the once green fields into an arid desert. Crops began to fail, rivers dried up, and the scarcity of food became a harsh and cruel reality. Mr. Alberto did his best to maintain the farm and care for Braveheart, but the difficulties grew with each passing day. Without enough resources, Mr. Alberto made the most painful decision of his life. He knew he could no longer take care of Braveheart. With a heavy heart and tears in his eyes, he took Braveheart to a distant region, where he believed the horse would have a better chance of finding water and pasture. Braveheart, not understanding what was happening, looked at Mr. Alberto with his expressive eyes, trusting blindly in the friend who had cared for him for so many years. As Mr. Alberto let go of the reins and walked away, Braveheart stood still for a moment, confused and alone. The open and unknown field ahead seemed threatening, and the intense heat made everything even more difficult. With no other choice, Braveheart began to walk, facing a new challenge with each step. Loneliness and abandonment were overwhelming feelings. Braveheart encountered other animals that had also been abandoned, each with their own traumas and despair. Yet, even in the midst of adversity, Braveheart did not give up. His indomitable spirit and deep faith kept him moving, seeking survival in a world that seemed to have lost all hope. His indomitable spirit and deep faith kept him moving, seeking survival in a world that seemed to have lost all hope. Days turned into weeks, and Braveheart faced countless challenges. Without shelter, he took refuge under the few trees that still withstood the drought, seeking shade and protection. The search for water became a daily battle, and every sip found was a hard-won victory. Time passed, and the suffering left its marks on Braveheart. His once shiny mane was now dull, and his strong body had become thin and frail. Encounters with other abandoned animals were frequent, each telling a story of pain and loss. But even so, Braveheart continued to fight. There was something inside him, a flame of hope that refused to be extinguished. Amid all this suffering, Braveheart found small moments of solace. At dusk, when the sun finally set, he felt a momentary peace. During these times, he would look up at the starry sky and feel a connection to something greater, something that gave him the strength to carry on. Braveheart knew he had to keep moving forward, that his journey was not yet over. He remembered Mr. Alberto's words, who always said that faith was the light that guided us through the darkest moments. And it was this faith that kept him standing, even when everything seemed lost. Each new day was an opportunity to try again, to find something that would give him strength. Braveheart was determined to survive, to find a new hope, even if the road was long and arduous. The faith he carried in his heart was his guide, and he knew that, somehow, it would lead him to a better destiny. The faith he carried in his heart was his guide, and he knew that, somehow, it would lead him to a better destiny. Then, on one of those days of constant struggle, Braveheart met a young man named Michael. Michael, a kind-hearted and faithful young man, was exploring the region in search of medicinal plants. When he saw Braveheart, weakened and alone, he didn't hesitate. He approached slowly, with calm gestures, and offered water and some food he had with him. Braveheart, initially wary, sensed the sincerity and kindness emanating from Michael. Gradually, he accepted the help and allowed the young man to tend to his wounds and feed him. Michael decided to take Braveheart home, a small farm on the outskirts of town, where he could recover in peace. In the days that followed, Michael devoted himself entirely to Braveheart's care. With patience and love, he cleaned his wounds, provided proper nutrition, and offered a safe shelter. Each day, Braveheart showed signs of recovery, gaining strength and vitality. The bond between the two grew stronger, marked by deep gratitude and trust. Michael knew that Braveheart needed more than just physical care. He talked to the horse, sharing stories of faith and hope, and always repeated that with God, anything was possible. Braveheart, as if understanding every word, responded with affectionate gestures, showing that faith and love were universal, understood in any language. Braveheart's recovery was a slow but steady process. Each new day, he showed more strength and energy until, finally, he was ready to help Michael with the daily tasks on the farm. Together, they worked in the fields, just as Braveheart had done before, but now there was a new light in his eyes, a renewed hope that illuminated his path. Michael and Braveheart became an inseparable duo, and the horse, now strong and healthy, was living proof that faith and perseverance can transform lives. As time went by, Braveheart's story spread throughout the community. People came from far and wide to see the horse who had overcome so many adversities. Braveheart not only inspired those who met him but also actively helped. Michael organized visits for children and adults facing their own difficulties, allowing them to spend time with Braveheart. The horse's presence, his strength, and calmness brought comfort and hope to all who met him. Braveheart also became a tireless worker, helping Michael revitalize the farm. Together, they planted new fields, built fences, and cared for the animals. Each completed task was a testament to the resilience and determination that Braveheart embodied. On a special day, the community gathered at Michael's farm to celebrate Braveheart's recovery. There was music, food, and an atmosphere of joy that filled the air. Michael, moved, shared Braveheart's story with everyone, emphasizing the importance of faith and hope. He explained how, even in the darkest moments, we should never lose faith, as help can come from the most unexpected places. Braveheart, standing beside Michael, watched the crowd with eyes full of serenity and gratitude. He knew that his journey had touched many lives and that his suffering had not been in vain. The message was clear: with faith, perseverance, and the support of a loving community, any obstacle can be overcome. The celebration was a success, and Braveheart's story continued to be told, inspiring many others to never give up, even when everything seems lost. Braveheart had become a symbol of hope and overcoming, a living reminder that with faith in God, everything can turn out well in the end. And so, Braveheart's life, which began with such great challenges, transformed into a journey of faith and renewal. His legacy endured, showing everyone that, even in the most difficult times, hope should never be abandoned.